Well, an attorney for Dawn Brancho's family has just given us this statement, quote, "The family is interested in the safety and protection of current and future trainers so that no other family has to suffer, and their desire is not to sensationalize but to help others." Joining us now is David Kirby, author of Death at SeaWorld. Also with us is former SeaWorld trainer Carol Ray. So David, SeaWorld is fighting what that quote-unquote willful neglect violation that OHSA slapped them with from everything that you know. Was there willful neglect? Should SeaWorld be held responsible?
I think OHSA has a pretty strong case here. It'll be very interesting to see what SeaWorld says this week to defend themselves. SeaWorld was obviously aware that this was a whale who had killed or been involved in the deaths of 2 other people. And to allow Dawn to get in the water so close to the whale as she did, I don't think it was her fault. SeaWorld let her do it. I mean, let's face it, someone is at fault here probably. You can't blame a killer whale for killing somebody. So it was either Dawn's fault or it was SeaWorld's fault. And contrary to what Mr. Lastenak just testified, I was in court all day today, and Kelly Flaherty-Clark, the head of curating for animal training, said that Dawn followed protocol, that this was not Dawn's fault. Where does that leave us?
Carol, what do you make of it? I mean, you used to train whales at SeaWorld. From everything you know about the incident, whose fault was it?
Oh gosh, that's a great question, and I couldn't agree with David Kirby more when he talks about the fact that Dawn was doing something that trainers had been doing with Tilikum for quite a while. So she was not put in a position on that day that she hadn't been in several times before. And if there was an issue with that, it should have been brought to her attention. She was a star trainer at SeaWorld. If it had been brought to her attention that she shouldn't be doing that, I'm sure that she wouldn't be doing that. So,
Carol, should these animals, I mean, killer whales, so big in these tanks, which basically they just go around in circles, I mean, should they be in captivity like this? Should they be used in these kind of shows?
Gosh, you know, I think that the only thing we've learned from having these, or one of the most important things we've learned from having these animals in captivity, is that they're not suitable to have in captivity. And regardless, though, I think that whichever way you go in terms of your thoughts on whether or not these animals should be used for exploitation and entertainment, the fact of the matter is I don't think there is a safe way to have humans interacting in close proximity with these whales.
David, do you agree with that?
I'm coming to that conclusion as I'm doing research on this book over the last year, and I've been to see killer whales in the wild. I've been on 3 different trips to the Northwest. I've been up close with killer whales in the wild. I spent all day yesterday at SeaWorld. I saw the Shamu show twice. It's a nice show, but there's just nothing to compare a captive killer whale with a wild killer whale, and anybody who has seen the two, I think, would agree with me. And I think that these whales are so smart, so attached to their families, so wide, free-ranging, and so acoustically oriented that when they are kept contained and confined in a small concrete pool, it is stressful for them, and the scientists that I've interviewed have testified to that fact. I also just want to say that the ponytail thing, I think that needs to be revisited, because even if you look at that video, Anderson, it appears that Tilikum already has Dawn by the arm and is slowly moving her across the water. And of course there were eyewitnesses who testified, such as Mrs. Connell. She said Tilikum grabbed Dawn by the head. There were other eyewitnesses who said he grabbed her by the arm or the body. Now, 2 of those eyewitnesses were supposed to show up today in court, and they failed to appear.
Carol, we got a hold of internal documents from SeaWorld describing each whale's history and his behavioral tendency. I wanted to show you part of Tilikum's profile. All it says about the incident that resulted in Dawn's death is 12 words. It says, grab ponytail, pulled in water, held trainer underwater, carry tow trainer. It doesn't even mention anything about the fact that this animal killed her. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, no, it's not surprising. It's ridiculous, but it's not surprising. Unfortunately, I think those animal profiles that you see are sugar-coated, and given that information is used to give to a trainer to make a decision about what they're going to do in their interactions with a whale. And if that is all the information that they put in that document, how is a trainer to make an educated decision about what they want to do with a whale?
And David, this is a huge business for them. I mean, this is not just a question of, well, we believe these whales should be seen by the public so the public can learn about them. I mean, this is a huge moneymaker for them, yes?
Oh, absolutely. This is a multi-billion-dollar business, and they say that the killer whales bring in roughly 70% or responsible for 70% of the take at the gate and the merchandise. That's why SeaWorld's fighting so hard. They want the whales back in the water.
Right.
And having seen shows with trainers in the water and out of the water, I can understand why. I would also just like to say, a woman has died. She was somebody's wife. She was somebody's sister and daughter. And we can argue all the legal arguments and everything, but I don't think that that should be forgotten.
Yeah.
And it is a terrible tragedy. I can understand why they don't want to have this video released to the public. And you mentioned what was in the trainer's report. If you read the autopsy, or now some of the actual OHSA memo on the attack have been released or leaked, it was a very brutal attack. It was purposeful. He continued to ram her after she was already lifeless.
Yeah.
This was not roughhousing. This was not just a game. In my opinion, this was a killing, and a tragic one.
And someone else had died before already.
And
this
a preventable
was not the first time, a preventable one. We
Yes.
should say we invited. We should say we invited SeaWorld on to express their opinion. They chose not to. David Kirby, I appreciate you being on. Carol Ray as well.